everyone. Welcome to the E3 podcast. My name is Jackie White. I'm the founding pastor of Church on the Rock here in Lubbock, and I get to lead the E3 network. E3 network is a network of churches and pastors, church staff, church leaders, all based on relationship. We want to build relationship with one another and help grow the kingdom together. So thank you for tuning in today. Hey, I've got a special guest, and I'm so excited about this. Jonathan Hill is with me today. Jonathan, man, it's so good to have you here. Let me tell you a little bit about Jonathan. He is the executive pastor here at Church on the Rock, but he is also the Lubbock president for Maverick Bank. So we've got a banker and a pastor all rolled into one. This guy is amazing. He's a wonderful husband, a great father. Jonathan, welcome, man. I'm glad you're here on the podcast with us today.
Pastor Jackie, it's my honor to be here with you. I love you and love this church, and really excited to talk to the E3 pastors today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, you're certainly welcome. I can't think of anyone better than you, Jonathan, to talk to our pastors and our leaders. We've been dealing on the past couple of podcasts, been dealing with churches and their heart towards finances.
Yes.
And that's always kind of a touchy subject.
Sure.
A lot of pastors are afraid to even talk about finances. Have you seen that? And I don't know why it's such a difficult subject, but it's one that is necessary in churches today.
Yes, sir. You know, one thing, Pastor Jackie, I love to say, for some reason, money creates emotion.
Yeah.
It creates emotion, and there's a weight to it. And so I think that's why it's hard. And then you've got the burden that it creates of paying bills and expenses and salaries and all the things that go with it. And so it's a combination of the actual real pressure that I think money creates, but then also the emotional side of it that it creates in people. And so absolutely, yes, sir. I think it's hard and it's difficult.
Wearing a hat in both the church world and the banking world, I have this thought, what would happen if pastors would just begin to teach their people the basic biblical principles of finances? And the one that I'm really thinking about, help their people deal with this whole idea of debt and getting out of debt.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think it's significant, Pastor Jackie. I was looking at some statistics for the end of 2024, and just the amount of credit card debt that's across the United States right now is very significant. It's climbed at a really accelerated rate since COVID. And I think it's just a reflection that, costs have increased, absolutely. But I think it's also a reflection of just people spending above their means.
Yeah.
And one of the most difficult things is managing your expenses. And that's from a personal perspective, but then from a church perspective too. And definitely for businesses.
Yeah.
Expenses have just climbed. And you have to, in life, whether it's at the church level or personal level or business level, you have to spend less than you make.
Yeah. Well, the stress that it puts on people's life, the debt that people are under, puts such a pressure and a stress. And I think the thing that I'm seeing is that stress is shown by the pace we try to keep.
Yeah.
And we've gotten out of control in a lot of areas.
We have, Pastor Jackie. And I think the most important thing that, I'd want the pastors to hear, or even anybody else that's listening to this podcast, is you're not alone.
Yeah.
So many times I think, the enemy wants us to feel like, well, we're the only one dealing with this situation and whatever that looks like, but you're not alone. And I think that's why this podcast is great, Pastor Jackie. Your leadership and what you're doing with E3 is so great, is you're not alone.
Yeah.
And, there are a lot of people that are willing to help and come alongside you and navigate these decisions.
And that your thought leads me right into my next question. So many pastors that I talk to, they do feel alone.
Yes, sir.
They feel like their churches over here, and their churches, yes, they're part of their team helping them, but they feel like that they're the ones trying to teach them on finances and help them on finances. But then on the other side, they've got a bank and expenses and debt. And so many pastors, I'll ask them a question like, who is your banker? Do you have a relationship with your banker?
Yeah.
And for a lot of pastors, they don't.
Right.
And what I found is that is crucial.
Yes, sir.
I can't tell you how many times I can look back over the last 40 years and name you the bankers here in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah.
David Syme, Tony Whitehead, Clay Leverage, just on and on and on. Mike Epps, that I personally had a relationship with. They were men of faith.
Yes, sir.
But they were also my banker.
Yeah.
And they were willing to help me negotiate these waters of finances for a church. Talk about that a little bit, because you're a banker. You also were the head of an executive pastor.
Absolutely. You know, I think relationships with bankers are so critical. A good banker is going to care about what's going on, not only in the church, but also in your life as the pastor. And Pastor Jackie, relationships in life matter.
Yeah.
And relationships are only built, you know, shoulder to shoulder, working through things together, talking together, and navigating situations. You know, I really want to be a banker that connects with people, and I want them to feel cared for and connected to the things that I'm doing, but I want to be connected to what they're doing.
Right.
And enable to help to help people the best. You have to know what's going on. And it's just like any great relationship. You have to share and listen, and, you know, listen with the intent to understand.
Right.
And so a really good relationship with a banker will benefit the pastor significantly. So my encouragement to the pastors is, if you don't know your banker, get to know him or her. There's great men and women bankers, and get to know them. Take them to lunch. And I think it will pay dividends, because when you need their help, it's better to have the relationship before you need it.
I think that is so crucial.
Yes, sir.
I think back to my own life, and not only was the relationship with our banker important as a church, but even as an individual.
Yeah.
I had a relationship with David Syme for years. Years ago, I remember I was in transition before I even began Church on the Rock. So it wasn't a church issue. It was just my personal issue. And I was going through this transition, and a lot of things were changing in my life. And
Yes, sir.
I had nothing guaranteed. I was living by faith.
Right.
And I remember going and talking with him, because we were needing another car. We were needing a newer car. And his advice and his counsel, he was so welcoming to me, and so warm in his advice. That's the way it should be. We shouldn't feel like we're out there by ourselves.
Yeah.
That aloneness. Let me just say this.
Yeah.
Pastor, I know sometime, or church leader, whoever you are, you're watching this podcast, and I know sometimes you feel almost overwhelmed because of the pressure, the stress. Maybe it's indebtedness that you're dealing with in your personal life. Maybe on the church level, you're looking at the resources that are available, and they're just not enough. Can I tell you, you are not alone. We're here to help you. That's what E3 is all about. If we can connect pastors and leaders together, we can at least pray for one another and release faith for one another. There's nothing like that unseen pressure that finances can put on a pastor. And here at E3, we just want you to know we want to help you. We want to walk with you through those times of pressure. So hopefully this is helping you, and you can contact us at any time, because we're here to help you. Put on your executive pastor hat for just a minute.
Yes, sir.
What are 2 or 3 little suggestions, key things, the basic primary things that you would suggest to the pastors of churches today?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing to me in my role as executive pastor is we are stewarding resources, Pastor Jackie. We're stewarding the resources that come into the church, but that's also people. We're stewarding people that God's given us from a staff standpoint. And so that's the way I like to look at it, is I have to be able to, when Pastor Heath has a question, I need to be able to answer that for him as it relates to the stewardship of the resources that we've been given, both financially and people. And I feel like that's what my role is as executive pastor. And there's a lot that goes into that. And you know this about me, Pastor Jackie. I want to care well for everything that's under what I've been given to take care of. And I'm responsible for it. I take it very significant. And I want to be able to respond to Pastor Heath with questions quickly and effectively.
I love what you're talking about. I get to watch this on a daily basis. I love the relationship that's happening between you and Pastor Heath. Pastor Heath can be a visionary. Pastor Heath can cast vision. And he does that with the understanding that you're right there with him, and your job is to execute, executive pastor, execute the vision that he's getting from God.
Yes, sir.
It is a beautiful combination. So many pastors in smaller churches, they don't have an executive pastor.
Right.
They're having to not only come up with a vision, but they've got to find the way to execute it.
Yes, sir.
So it's tough on them at times. You got any word of counsel for them or encouragement for them?
Absolutely. You know, I think that from where I'm sitting, Pastor Jackie, we have been called to take care of the people that the Lord has brought us. Mm-hmm. And so as the pastor, I understand, Church on the Rock may have more staff, but we're called to the same things. And so I would encourage them, I'm a big systems and process guy, Pastor Jackie, and I'd be happy to help any of the pastors with that thought. I think that our time is limited in everything that we can do to help people, right? And so I use systems and processes to make my time more valuable. And that's what I would encourage them. For the fact that they can't hire staff because they may not have the resources or whatever it may be, we can help with systems, processes, and I know that's what E3 is there for, to help them with some of those avenues. And for me, Pastor Jackie, even though we have more staff per se at Church on the Rock, I'm still using systems and processes to know what's going on with the finances, to know what's going on with our team. There's some reporting tools that we use because we have a large staff and I can't talk to everybody every day.
Right.
But I've got to be able to give a report if Pastor Heath calls today. And so I need systems and processes to help me do that. And so that would be my encouragement.
Okay, when we get the systems in place, when we get the processes working, then for the smaller church, then it makes it that much easier for us to recruit volunteers.
Absolutely.
Because we have something, a way to track them, a way to train them, a way to communicate with them in an effective way once we get the processes working and the systems underway.
Yeah, and people feel, I'm not trying to say that, you're not personalizing this, that you don't, but you caring for people well, I believe systems and processes can help you care for them in a better way because you have ready, available information to take care of them.
Absolutely.
And if you don't know, you can't help.
Right.
And that's what some of these tools has helped me do, is being able to know things and respond quickly to help them. Above all, again, I feel we're called to steward the resources and people that God's given us.
Yeah.
And anything that we can do to be better at that.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Hey, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going totally in a different direction, but I think this is important. And I want to ask you this question because I know you, I know your family, I know your kids.
Yeah.
When it comes to finances, when it comes to biblical principles of stewardship, how early do we start teaching our kids? And how do we teach them those things?
Thank you for asking. I appreciate your compliments. I've been teaching my kids about life and finance probably since the day they were born. It's caught. They watch. We've taught them about generosity, Pastor Jackie. One of the things that I've always taught my kids is that we honor the Lord with a tithe for increase. My kids don't make a salary, but they have increases in their life. And we want to put God first for every increase that's happened in our life because it's a heart issue.
Right.
And it's about obedience.
So good.
And what I've tried to teach is it's about obedience and it's about trust. And that obedience and trust is how we walk through life together. And so I spend, much like I would love to spend more time with each and every staff member here at Church on the Rock, right? I would love to do that. I spend a lot of time with my kids doing life, helping them make decisions, walking through things. And so it's caught, it's not taught. And that's how I've navigated it with my children.
I'm thinking right now, and let me say this, Genesis chapter 12 begins with God speaking to Abraham, and he speaks a blessing over his life. He says, I'm going to bless you and make you great, and I'm going to bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you. But the reason I'm going to bless you is so you can be a blessing to all the families on the earth.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful, powerful blessing. And what made me think about this was God is a multi-generational God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yes, sir.
And so the blessing that he spoke to Abraham wasn't just for his generation. It was to go on and go on to the next generation and the next generation. And what God is teaching us doesn't end with us. We're responsible for teaching our children.
Yes, sir.
And like you say, demonstrating for our children. There's more caught than taught. Yeah, you can teach them, but they're watching. They're always watching. Yeah. And the blessing becomes a multi-generational blessing. I've watched it here at Church on the Rock. I've seen families come in that have had no relationship with God. They've struggled in every area of life, and they begin to turn things around. They began to relate to God. They began to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And then as they begin to learn the principles of stewardship, they begin to walk those out. And all of a sudden, what has been a generational curse is turned into a generational blessing.
Yes, sir.
I see their children. I see their children's children now. I've been here long enough now that I'm seeing the children's children.
Yeah.
And what a man. It touches my heart to see how God is blessing them on a multi-generational level.
Amen.
I see that in your family.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I love your kids.
Yeah, thank you.
There's something about a family that is living under the blessing. It's not just so we can have money and spend it on ourselves. No. There's that spirit of generosity, and we realize we're the hope of the world. God blesses us so we can bless every other family in this earth.
Yeah.
Wow. Jonathan, thank you so much.
It's my honor and pleasure to be here. And
I know we'll do this again,
Yep.
and because it's such a valuable time to just spend together. And I want to thank all of you that are watching the E3 podcast with us today. Let me encourage you. We have E3 days here in Lubbock at Church on the Rock. We have those set on our calendar. And each one of those days, we begin at around 9 o'clock in the morning, and we'll go to about 3:30 or 4 in the afternoon. We'll provide you lunch. But we want you to come and take part of these wonderful E3 days. We'll have a focus every day. Our February meeting, we're focusing on finances. We've just done that. Our April meeting, we'll be talking about personal growth in your life. And I want you to be a part of that. We want to help you in any way we can. Again, let me remind you, you can subscribe to the E3 podcast on YouTube or the Church on the Rock website. Thank you so much for watching today, and we hope you'll continue to watch us here at the E3 podcast. Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Jackie. Thank you, pastors.